Welcome back everyone, and welcome to a brand new series on the channel, Great Ideas. In this series of videos I'm going to be discussing some ideas or essays from great thinkers throughout history. And in today's video we're going to be looking at an essay by Montaigne in which he discusses the nature of friendship. Before I get started, if you are interested in reading any of the essays that I talk about in this series, I would recommend the Penguin's Great Ideas collection of slim volumes which have small essays and sometimes more than one essay from a great thinker. And it's these books that really inspired this series. And so they're going to kind of form the basis of the ideas that I'll talk about in the series as well. So what is On Friendship, which is the name of the essay, all about? Well, in this essay, Montaigne wants to discuss the nature of friendship. He wants to understand what friendship is. And the inciting incident of this is the death of his closest friend, Etienne Boiti. I have no idea if I'm saying that right, but that is my attempt at saying that name. Using this friend as his paradigm example of this perfect platonic friendship, Montaigne begins his analysis of friendship. The kind of friendship that Montaigne is concerned with is not just any ordinary friendship. It's a kind of friendship where two people, preferably men, form a kind of unbreakable bond. This doesn't mean that their characters and ways of doing things are like exactly the same. It just means that their two ways of being complement each other perfectly, and that they have an unconditional love and compassion for one another that's not grounded in external things like the desire for a good reputation, or the desire for a promotion, or some other external thing out there like money or whatever, like things like that. It's got to be an unconditional kind of love between these two friends. And so what Montaigne begins by doing in the essay is he wants to understand how these friendships can come about, and so he looks at different contexts or different kinds of relationship and asks whether you can get this kind of friendship in these kinds of relationship. The first thing that he does is consider parental relationships, specifically between fathers and sons, and he says that nope, you cannot have this perfect kind of friendship between a father and a son. His main reason for this is that there is an imbalance in the roles of a father and a son. For Montaigne, the role of a father is the role of a guiding authority figure, and this prevents the father from having the kind of equal mutual understanding that these friends need to have in order to count as having this special kind of friendship. From children to fathers, it is more a matter of respect. Friendship, being fostered by mutual confidences, cannot exist between them because of their excessive inequality. It might also interfere with their natural obligations. For all the secrets of fathers cannot be shared with their children for fear of begetting an unwelcome intimacy. So it's a no-go then for relationships between fathers and sons, and it's also a no-go for relationships between brothers. Montaigne says in his very colourful way, "He matters no more to me for coming out of the same hole." So Montaigne thinks that there's no real reason or no necessary reason why this special mutual bond of unconditional love should spring from a family circle. The relationships between parents and children can't happen because of this imbalance of authority and kind of pupil. And it's not going to happen between brothers because firstly, essentially they're just a biological relation. And Montaigne also thinks that there's going to be conflict between brothers, especially in the time he was writing, when a lot of your money and wealth comes through inheritance. There are going to be these kind of familial conflicts that interfere with the kind of unconditional love that you have to have in order to have this special bond of friendship. So much for the family then. Another good candidate for this kind of friendship would be romantic love. People often talk about their lovers being their best friend. What would Montaigne have to say about this? Well, he would say absolutely no way on earth can you have this kind of friendship with your romantic partner. Some of this is grounded in possible sexism. Montaigne thinks that women in particular are incapable of having these kinds of bonds with men. He says that women are not normally capable of responding to such familiarity and mutual confidence as sustain that holy bond of friendship, nor do their souls seem firm enough to withstand the clasp of a knot so lasting and so tightly drawn. Now, before we just label Montaigne with the sexism label and just leave it there, I think it's worth pausing and just thinking about why he might think this. One thing that went through my head as I was reading it is that, in the time that Montaigne is writing, men and women have vastly different roles, and the role that marriage plays in Montaigne society is also very different from the role that marriage plays in our society. And I think these two things compounded make it unlikely that you would have this kind of unconditional love for someone of the opposite gender. The first reason is that marriage, as Montaigne suggests, is essentially a bargain. It's about a trade-off of wealth and beauty. You marry someone because you want something. Maybe your partner can increase your position, or maybe they have a lot of money which you can put to good use. And it's these kinds of things that Montaigne wants to rule out, because remember, the friendship has to be completely unconditional. So if you're entering into a relationship with someone just because you want money, it's not going to count as the special kind of friendship. Also, remember that to have this kind of friendship, you have to be really compatible with each other. You have to understand each other on some kind of fundamental level. And Montaigne doesn't think that's likely between men and women, partly because of their different characters. Now, some of this is obviously grounded in beliefs that aren't true about women. But I also think that there may be some reason for his thinking this, in the sense that men and women, in playing vastly different roles in his time period, were probably quite unlikely to have the kind of temperaments that would come together in unison in the way that Montaigne wants for this kind of friendship. Another reason why Montaigne thinks that this kind of friendship can't occur in romantic relations is because romantic relations have a sexual element, and this element undermines the kind of friendship. Montaigne says that true friendship is something that feels warm, comfortable, and safe, whereas romantic love has this element of lust in it, and lust is something that is fiery, fleeting, and volatile, and you can't have that kind of passion in this kind of calm friendship. You need to be completely at ease with this person, and so an element of sexual tension would undermine that. Montaigne then carries this thought over to a discussion about Greek homosexual romance as well, and says that for the same reason, because of this lust element, you're not going to be able to have this bond of friendship between Greek homosexual lovers. Another reason why he's quite down on Greek homosexual love as well, partly is to do with his Christian morality, which, obviously is going to exclude the gays from even associating with each other, let alone being friends. But also he thinks that if we look at those kinds of relationships in Greek society, often they were between an older man who had wisdom and knowledge and a younger man who had beauty and a desire to learn. And so Montaigne says that basically what you have here is some kind of bargain between the wise man and the beautiful boy, and they trade essentially, so that the young one trades his beauty by sleeping with the wise man, and the wise man returns the favour by giving the young one his guidance. And again, obviously this isn't going to count as a true friendship, because it's just a bargain where you're trading goods, rather than this genuine mutual affection that you share with someone because you just, sync up in this kind of soulmate kind of way. So obviously some of that stuff there is going to seem quite out of touch, and I'm not sure that I agree with everything there, but I think the main interesting point from that kind of discussion is this tension that Montaigne sets up between lust and friendship, and this idea that if you introduce lust into a friendship, it does something, it changes the relationship, it introduces this kind of tension that gets in the way of this calm friendship. So what do you think about this tension between friendship and lust? Do you think that romantic love and friendship are two things that are kind of severed, and that you can't have this perfect bond of friendship within the context of a romantic relationship? I'd love to hear your thoughts down in the comments. Another controversial component of Montaigne's essay is that he thinks that this special bond of friendship can only be had between two people. So not only is he going to be monogamist in terms of marriage, but also in terms of friendship. Now, this doesn't mean that Montaigne thinks that you can only have one friend in your whole life. He says that you can have lots of acquaintances. He says that you can have friends for different things. For example, you might have your friend who you play tennis with, or your friend who you go bowling with, or your friend who paints. And so you have these relationships that are specific to a particular hobby or interest, or maybe career. But when it comes to this special bond of mutual affection, it's meant to be something that's all-encompassing. It's meant to be the kind of friend where you can just sit with them and be with them and be completely at ease, touch on any topic, feel completely honest and calm with them. And that, he thinks, is very rare to begin with. You might not actually find such a person in your whole life. But not only that, he thinks that you can only have one such friendship. And that seems obviously quite controversial. Some people want to say that they have multiple friendships. And that was definitely my reaction when I read the essay. But then I actually thought, well, it would be interesting to do an experiment and to write down some possible candidates for friends that I have that would, count under this heading. And so I came up with a couple of candidates first, and these are friends that I've known for a long time. And I thought, they seemed pretty good candidates because I've known them for a long time, and I could go without not seeing them for years and then see them again, and things would just be as they were. But then I thought about it more, and I was like, well, in a sense, that's not the kind of friendship that Montaigne is talking about here, because it seems like to some extent our lives have sort of gone apart. And while we're, still at ease with each other when we meet and stuff, we are in, we're doing different things. We've kind of moved away. So those might have been those kind of close friendships at one time, but time has moved on. So then I thought about some other friends, more recent ones, and there was one friend that I have who was a possible candidate, but maybe sexual tension would undermine that friendship, so they were removed. There was another friend who would also be removed for other reasons. And then I actually only came on one friend that I currently have that I would say that I could have that kind of friendship was. So obviously that doesn't prove that Montaigne is right, but I did think it was interesting that although I initially disagreed, when I actually thought about it and went through possible candidates, it seemed like there really is only one possible candidate for me right now. But then I would also want to say that maybe these kinds of relationships can change over time. Although it seems like Montaigne wants to say that a true friendship is something that would endure throughout time. It's not just something that would occur just for a time period. Like, you're fully synchronized with this person, so nothing should change it. And that was certainly true for Montaigne and his friend. And the essay closes with a really beautiful elegy to this friend that is just really wonderful. And whatever you think of Montaigne's theory and his ideas, the essay is just worth reading for that elegy on its own. And the fact that this essay was written as a tribute to his friend just makes it even more touching to read it. So do I agree with Montaigne about this aspect? In a sense, I think I do. One thing that I think he is right about is this idea that to really have depth in a relationship, it requires a lot of time and it requires a certain amount of, compatibility. And so it seems likely that it's going to be quite difficult for you to actually find a friend of this kind, right? It seems like most people might not even have such a relationship. Maybe you only ever have acquaintances or friends that are tied to a specific thing. So there is that idea that it might just be very unlikely to begin with that you would even have this. So the odds are getting one is quite lucky to begin with. But also I think there is something to the thought that, if you really want to have depth in a friendship, that is going to take a lot of time. That is going to take a lot of effort. And given how demanding his understanding of friendship is, it seems reasonable to me to think that maybe you could only really have one. But I'm certainly not sold on that, and it's something worth discussing in the comments. So let me know what you think. Alright, that is it for my thoughts on Montaigne's essay on friendship. I think this is a wonderful little essay, and I would definitely recommend either picking up the Penguin volume of Great Ideas. Not only does it have this essay in, but it also has some other ones. It has a really fun one called The Art of Conversation, which I really enjoyed. It's got one on idleness. It's just really, I think there are about 6 or 7 in the whole thing. And yeah, they're really interesting reads. I probably won't do videos on every single essay that I read because some of them aren't worth a whole video on. But whenever one of these essays comes up and I think it's an interesting idea, something that I want to talk about, I'll pop a video up, discuss it in the video, my rambling thoughts, and then hopefully have a good conversation with you in the comments about it as well. So I would definitely recommend picking up this essay and giving it a read. Montaigne is also a very engaging writer. He's got a good sense of humour, and also this essay is, just like I said before, a really wonderful tribute to a lost friend. And let me know what you think of this new series that I have on the channel. And if there are any essays or little things, I'm not going to do bigger works, at least not yet. If there are any essays that you think you would like me to read and possibly discuss on the channel, also let me know, and that may very well come up in a future video. Take care everyone, ta-ra!